Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another interview today where I'm pleased to be joined by Tom Bellamy. Tom, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yes, I'm not too bad. A good starting place to start would be at Exeter today. You've had two rides. How would you have assessed today on the whole?
Steady old day, really. Obviously, Ballymullen was a little bit disappointing in the long distance chase. Having the fences out wouldn't have suited him too much, but he was disappointing on the whole anyway. But I'm, get him back and get him checked over and see if there's anything comes to light in that sense. And earlier in the card, I rode a nice horse for Tom Simmons, who was a winning Irish pointer and finished fourth today in a big field novice and showed plenty of promise for the future.
So in terms of your season so far, we're probably about halfway now, if not just before. How do you assess your season so far? You've had a good connection with Alan King. Outside rides have been quite fruitful too. So how would you sum up the season on the whole?
Yeah, touch wood, things have been going well. I think I'd be ahead of where I've ever been at this time of year. And as you've said, the connection with Alan's been good, and just keep trying to keep the people that supporting me, keep repaying them with providing the goods when the horses are good enough and what have you. And keep trying to keep the ball rolling.
So looking back at some of the horses that probably helped you along your way, Zigger Boy's got to be a standout horse in the Sky Bet Chase in 2017. It must have come at a good time for you when you're just perhaps in that sort of position of coming out as a conditional into a professional as well. And it must have been a great day for you to ride a big winner in front of ITV.
Yeah, massive. It was my first big winner, and lost my claim a couple of months before that. So as every jockey, I tell you, you need something to happen in that interim period. And I was lucky that did happen, and it's just got you in the limelight a little bit, even if it's just for your 5 minutes. But it's good, and then people might know your name a little bit more in that sense. And he was just a legend of a horse, really, real sound jumper. Had some leg trouble there in the sort of latter years of his career, and it was a massive shame he never got to the national, because I think he'd have been made for that. Like I say, he was a gent of a horse, and I ended up having him when he retired. Unfortunately, lost him a little bit after that, but it was great to have him for a short time. And he's one I owe an awful lot to.
In terms of another legend, Swing Bill was an absolute star. I think he won at Cheltenham in amateur Irish handicap chase. He finished 6th, 9th, and 10th in the Grand National. He must have been an absolute star for you, and not only for you, but for David Piper and connections as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was one of those horses that, without ever going to the top, he was always, everyone loved him, and big trainer like David Pipe, like it would be easy for a horse like that to go under the radar, but he'd tell you himself he was not a stable star, but a real stalwart and a yard favourite. And he was my first ride at Cheltenham that day, and it was a case of he babysat me really and took me around there, and I didn't really have to do an awful lot, but it was a real nice day. Yeah, it was really good.
In terms of recent connection, you built up a very good connection with Deborah Hayman's Star, to be fair. Last season was a very good season. You had 2 wins on him, followed by a couple of notable runs in the Cleve and the Stayers Hurdle. In terms of his last run at Cheltenham in November, is he perhaps a little too high in the handicap, and perhaps a look down to the graded route might be best for him this season again?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard. He's in between a rock and a hard place, in the sense of he is probably just a touch too high. And as you saw the other day, like he still runs his heart out and finishes 3rd or 4th every time. And he's never going to come back down at the rate he'd need to running like that, And it's that said, he's only a few pounds higher than his last winning mark, but I think things fell right that day, and those races around Cheltenham, which is a place he loves, and that's why he always seems to run there. They're competitive races, and they don't often, everything doesn't go to plan most of the time, to be honest. And whether he's good enough to sort of contest those big Stayers races, it's a tough one, but he'll always run his race, and he'll keep nicking away some prize money for connections, and they do a great job with him, and he's a massive sort of, he's the star that they need, to put them on the match. That's good.
I mean, look at the Stayers picture itself. If he's to go back there, you could possibly bump into Time Hill, former reigning champion Paisley Park, Lisner Goroska as well. I think he had the wind problem at Newbury last time as well, and even McFabulous. So if he's to go back to Cheltenham, it looks as if it's going to be quite a hot race, but he did run quite soundly last season and staying on 5th. So it will be a bit difficult, but I'm sure, as you said before, he could probably run his usual race.
Yeah, he would, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he it's one of those, like, you sort of ride him quite patiently as well, so he's always there to pick up any pieces that are there to be picked up, and he's look, he's one of those, like, he could go and finish 6th and have run his absolute heart out again. So it's a very difficult situation for Connections to place him in those races and find, opportunities to get their prize money and stuff. And look, if we can get his head in front again one day, it would be brilliant.
And how's Arambe been recently? I know he took a fault at the last in the Great Wood Hurdle. He's been quite unlucky because he was brought down at Newbury in the Betford Hurdle too, but he gave you a great day last season, winning the actual Great Wood itself. But how's he recovered since that fall at Cheltenham?
Yeah, a few quiet days after it. He was a little bit stiff and sore, nothing serious. He was the same after Newbury, and he got brought down at Chepstow there a couple of years ago as well. And every time he's hit the floor, he takes a bit to get over it. He's a bit of a softie, but he, no lasting damage, and he'll be back. I don't know. I'm not going to put a figure on it. I don't know when, but once he's 100% fit and ready to go again, he'll be back, and it possibly might be over a fence. I don't know yet, but that has been mentioned, and I'd be fairly excited if that was to happen.
So what was it like for you last year winning the Great Wood Hurdle, and it must have been a fantastic day as well back at Cheltenham?
Massive day. The timing of it was very important. Wayne had just announced his retirement, and myself and Tom Cannon had sort of been pushed up the pecking order a little bit, so it was good to get that first sort of noteworthy win, I suppose, and you've just got that under your wing then, and confidence is high after that, and you feel like everyone's trusting you a bit more, and it makes any jockey will tell you when you're riding winners it's an easy game, and that really is true.
I mean, another horse that's been good to at Cheltenham, Splash of Ginge. The Bet Victor Gold Cup in 2017. It was a bit of a shock in what was terrible conditions, but it must have been another fantastic day for you. And I can imagine with the owners knowing them they like a drink after the race, it must have been a very good sort of social after the race as well.
Yeah, huge day. Yeah, that'll probably be my standout day so far. Massive. I was struggling at the time, not getting many rides, not getting many winners, and best mate Ryan Hatch said to me, look, I don't know how my comeback's sort of looking. It's probably not looking the best. Nothing was set in stone, as in like he hadn't been told that he couldn't ride again, but it was getting more and more that way. And he said, why don't you just chance riding out in Niger's? He's brilliant at giving lads chances, and like there'll be a gap there if I do have to finish, And he said, and even if I don't, it's going to be a while anyway, so just get yourself in there, and it's worth a try, isn't it? And I think I went in 2 or 3 weeks running, and I got a ride at Foss Lass the Sunday before the Bet Victor, and that won. And then that was my second ride the following Saturday, and it's for Nige and the owners, John Neild and all the Ginge Army. It was for them to put on a jockey who's not riding any winners, and they'd heard of me because I know them, but if they didn't know me, they wouldn't have heard of me, and it was a big thing to do, and I was out of fashion, things weren't happening, and yes, it's just it's kind thing for them to do, and I'd like to think that we repaid them, and it was well celebrated. Yeah, there was a good picture of John so that was on the Saturday, and on the Monday morning he was asleep on a bench in the pub, I think. So it was a long couple of days for them, but no, it was a day I'll never forget anyway.
I mean, look at last week. So Royal won a good racing behind Epperton. You've ridden him twice. I think it was in the Game Spirit at Newbury. You had a spin on him. That must have been a huge opportunity for you, and for Alan to trust you in riding such a nice horse, it must have been a huge compliment for you at a stage in your career.
Massive, yeah, massive. And again, nice to the owners to sort of when their big jockey was away, it was nice to sort of be the next in line, and it's a different ball game riding those 2 mile chases. That is, I've obviously ridden plenty of 2 mile chases over the years, but top class ones, that was the first one, and it was different. Yeah, and it was good. And running against Altior was incredible. I've had a couple of glances across coming up the straight, and Sco Royale's a good, strong traveller, and I'm sort of sat there not having to do a lot, going between the last two, and I'm seeing Nico pumping away. I thought, hey, we've got him here, and then you land after the last, look up, and he's 5 lengths clear. This is different ball game, but no, it was really good to get the ride on him, and you never know, one day if Darryl has to go somewhere else or whatever, we might get another go.
Another trainer you've built a good connection with is Kieran Burke, and you've had a couple of nice horses that you've built good connections with him, with Mine Supply, and put the cash on the dash. You won at Wincanton when I was there before lockdown. What's he like to ride for? Sorry, 'cause he's obviously a trainer who many people probably might not have heard of.
He's brilliant, and I think he just needs a bit of firepower behind him now, and I think people will have heard of him. He's just actually moved yards to a place called Whitcomb, where there's been some big trainers in the past, and he's got better facilities than he's ever had now. Could do with a few more horses, but the sort of qualities improving all the time. He's got horses there now that are winning races, and the one I'd be probably most excited about from there would be a horse called Last Royal. He's a full brother to Honeysuckle, and he won his bumper at Uttoxeter quite impressively, and then he got beat in a novice hurdle back at Uttoxeter on his next run, but he was on mightily green and didn't jump a twig, and then it transpired afterwards he had a stress fracture in a hind leg, so perfect excuse. Shame for it to happen, but at least there was some in there, because I wouldn't say I was expecting him to go and hose up, but I was hoping he'd win after his bumper run, and he travelled like the best horse in the race, and then it just didn't happen. But he's one to be very excited about, and I think he's back in work now, and they're just sort of starting the road to getting him back on track. But that obviously won't be till the new year and probably spring, but he's one to be really excited about.
And just finally, looking ahead to tomorrow, you've got 3 rides at Aintree, kicking off with Azerti. He's perhaps not performed too well this season. He won around this time last year, but he's been a bit disappointing in his first 2 runs of the season. This looks a difficult handicap to try and solve, and he's towards the bottom of the market. How would you sum up his chance tomorrow?
He definitely have a chance on his best form. He's lower than when he won that day at Newbury a year ago. Look, as you've just said, there's probably, I think there's 14 runners. There's probably 10 in there that can win. It's just a very competitive race, and if he puts his best foot forward, he's got every chance. He's relatively versatile when it comes to ground. I haven't spoken to Adrian yet, who obviously usually rides him, but he'll tell me what to do and how to get the best out of him. And look, he seems in good form at home and stuff. And look, he goes there with an each way chance, I'd say. Like as you've said, he needs to bounce back and put his other 2 runs this season behind him. But there's no reason why he can't do that.
You're looking to head to the listed hurdle. You're riding her indoors. It's her debut tomorrow, and she's come up against some horses with racecourse experience. Alan King's had a decent enough record in this race before, so do you think the inexperience, is it something that you're particularly worried about ahead of tomorrow?
Look, you'd rather have had a run, but Alan, as a rule, does very well with his juveniles. They do a lot of schooling. She'll know her job, and she's got a flat rating of, I think it's sort of mid-70s, and that's they're sort of the ones that turn out to be the best hurdlers. A lot of the time those 100 rated flat horses that come off can be very disappointing when they go over hurdles, and quite often the ones around the 70 mark go and surprise quite a few people. So fingers crossed she's one of those. She won 2 runs ago, so she's obviously in good enough heart, and she'll go there with a nice chance, I'd say.
And finally tomorrow in Sefton tomorrow, after big national fences, you're on board senior citizen for the McNeil family. This race looks quite like a mini national. You've got Mike Bite coming into it, which is an intriguing angle. This horse has had 5 wins from 2 wins from 5 over fences. Relatively still inexperienced with only the 14 career runs. How would you sum up senior citizen's chances ahead of tomorrow's race over the big fences?
He's not a horse I know an awful lot about, other than sort of looking through his form and stuff. Had a sit on him on Monday, jumped a few fences on him. Touchwood, he was very good. He didn't ride like a too inexperienced horse. And look, it's always a bit of a lottery going around over those fences, but especially when there's sort of 19 others in the race or 18 others. And I think on his best form, he's probably still relatively well handicapped. So I'd like to think he could run all right. He wouldn't want too much more rain. I think he'll get away with soft, but he probably wouldn't want it to go too deep. And look, it's one of those you sort of get a good start and hunt away for the first half, and then if you're still standing, come the canal turn, then creep into it and see how we're going. But I'd like to think he's got a better chance than sort of how it looks on paper anyway.
And what's it like for you tomorrow to get a ride over the national fences? Is a fantastic course with so much history, and you must be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's good, and all jockeys look forward to it. Well, obviously depends what you're riding, but I'm hoping he'll take to it and enjoy it. And yeah, it's always a nice buzz. It's what you remember watching on Saturdays as a kid, and when you walk in the course tomorrow morning and looking at Beecher's Brook, you sort of have to pinch yourself and think, am I actually doing this? It's living the dream really, and looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Right, I'm just going to stop the recording there. That's perfect. So that's